Julian's life, in truth, germinated from a bloody purge. When he was but a child, a blade could be lurking behind every door of the imperial palace. His kin fell one by one into pools of blood, and the man who decreed this carnage was none other than his cousin, the reigning emperor. To survive, Julian had to cloak himself in the guise of a feckless youth, devoid of ambition. He was kept under house arrest in a remote estate, encircled by severe and unyielding surveillance. Yet, it was this very solitude that drove him into the sanctuary of books. He fell in love with Homer, captivated by Plato. In his heart, the realm guarded by Apollo and Athena was infinitely more sacred than the courtly intrigues before his eyes. This escapism was not a mark of weakness, but a profound fissure carved into the depths of his soul. Outwardly, he submissively studied theology. Inwardly, by the light of midnight lamps, he secretly offered prayers to the shackled gods of old. He discovered that only within those austere reaches of classical philosophy could his soul find a place to dwell. The cruelest irony of fate lay in the fact that the man who loathed war the most was dispatched to the most brutal of battlefields. Seeking to exhaust Julian, the emperor sent him to Gaul to repel the barbarian invasions, placing only a meager 3,000 recruits at his command. It was assumed he would perish in those muddy thickets. Yet, Julian displayed a composure that was nothing short of staggering. He slept upon the bare earth, ate the same coarse rations as his men, and in the interludes between marches, composed his philosophical treatises by the flicker of campfires. His philosopher-like stoicism transformed that motley rabble into an invincible legion of iron. After his resounding victory at the Battle of Strasbourg, the soldiers gazed upon this slender, hollow-cheeked youth with deep-seated awe. They raised their shields, forcibly thrusting him onto the imperial throne. Looking upon the cheering ranks, Julian felt no ecstasy, only the crushing weight of a descending destiny. He knew that he was finally to don the purple robe he so detested, to face a cultural gambit destined for failure. The first act of Julian's reign sent a chill through the entire empire. He decreed the reopening of the long-shuttered Greek temples, allowing the Olympian gods to receive offerings once more. He walked the streets of Antioch no longer as a majestic sovereign surrounded by a retinue, but as a simple philosopher, his attire modest and his beard dusted with the grime of the road. He sought to persuade the masses through reason and erudition, telling them that ancient wisdom held more power than the rising tides of new fanaticism. Yet, he found himself a pariah in the world of men. The former elites found him eccentric, the commoners viewed him as a heretic. As he offered sacrifices alone before those magnificent temples, the backdrop was the cold indifference or mockery of the populace. In that moment, Julian realized he was not guarding an empire, but a phantom that had long since perished. He was like a man lighting a solitary lamp in the dead of night, where the surrounding darkness was not only deep but utterly devoid of warmth. This ultimate loneliness gradually morphed into a poignantly beautiful obsession. Julian resolved to prove the might of the gods who stood behind him through a grand conquest. He led the Roman legions eastward, setting his sights on the Sassanid Persian Empire. It was an expedition of extreme peril. Amidst the boundless wilderness, with supply lines severed, the army was plunged into desperation. Julian maintained his startling restraint. During those nights of thirst, hunger, and sandstorms, he remained in his tent, seeking serenity through the study of the stars. He even wrote to his mentor, debating how virtue might remain pure under conditions of extremity. Then came the fateful day. In a sudden skirmish, to bolster his men's morale, Julian charged into the fray before he could even don his full armor. A javelin pierced through his liver. In that fleeting second, he felt no terror. He only felt weary. The hand that had tried to grasp the setting sun of a civilization finally went limp and fell. Following Julian's demise, his successors swiftly abolished his edicts and once again bolted the temple doors. In the annals of history, he was blackened, cursed, and depicted as a madman who sought to reverse the mandate of heaven. Yet, in those few lucid accounts that remain, we see a starkly different Julian. He was a poet who traded a crown for truth, a solitary soul at the peak of power who longed for a spiritual home. The writings he left behind still emanate a luster as cool and pale as moonlight. He teaches us that even when we know an era has passed, guarding that tiny flicker of light in one's heart, even if it leads to disillusionment, is a form of dignity. Do you feel it now? That magnificent and chilling loneliness spanning 1,000 years? No matter how the world clamors, remember to keep a classical garden for Julian in your heart. You may now sleep in peace. The dust and sands of Persia have settled, the ancient gods have vanished into the stardust. Julian was laid to rest in a desolate place. There is no grand altar, only the wind in perpetual chant. He left behind the most haunting silhouette in Roman history, a back turned against the current of the age. People have come to realize that Julian did not lose to any man, he simply lost to time. He was a noble soul living in a displaced dimension of space-time, a brave heart seeking starlight amidst the ashes. Now, the smoke of the empire has long dispersed. The temple columns he once reopened still stand beneath the moonlight. They quietly watch over the world of men, and over the unfulfilled dream of that emperor. Tonight, may you carry this Julian-esque clarity into a dreamscape devoid of prejudice, filled only with serenity. Good night.